Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to tell you how to pronounce the past tense of regular verbs in English. If you have ever made the mistake of saying walked instead of walked or frightened instead of frightened, you will never be confused again. By the end of the video, you will have learned all the rules. So get ready and let's dive into it. So we know that when we convert a regular verb from its present form to a past form, we add the suffix ed. The question though is, why do we pronounce the suffix in different ways depending on the verb? It can either add an entire syllable, ud, or a single phoneme, t or d. For example, the past form of the verb wait is waited. By adding the suffix ed at the end, from a one-syllable word, we end up with a two-syllable one, waited. But let's take the verb check. To convert it from present to past, we still write the suffix ed, but when we pronounce it, we don't say check it, we say checked. So we still end up with a one-syllable word. By the way, if we say checked, a native speaker might think we're saying check it. That's why it's important not to mispronounce it. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty and talk about the rules. There are three ways to pronounce the ed ending when it comes to the verbs in their past tense: ud, d, and t. Let's see how we can decide which one to use for a particular word. The first question you need to ask when you see a verb in the past tense is the last phoneme of the verb's present tense either voiceless t or voiced d? For example, the verb wait ends on a t, the verb add ends on a d, etc. If the answer is yes, like in the case of wait and add, we add a whole syllable in the past tense. In other words, we pronounce the ed as ud, waited, added. It's important to note that this question is about the pronunciation of a regular verb in the present tense and not about the spelling. For example, the verbs rate and decide also end with the phonemes t and d respectively, even though they're spelled with the letter e at the end. The past tense of rate is rated and the past tense of decide is decided. Both verbs end with ud in their past forms. So when it comes to this rule, always follow the sound and not the spelling. Okay, let's move on to the next question. If the verb in its present form ends neither with a t nor with a d, the next question we need to ask is, does it end with a voiced or voiceless consonant? To decide if a sound is voiced or voiceless, put your fingers on your throat and say b, v, z, m, l. These are voiced consonants and you will feel the vibrations of your vocal cords on your fingers. Now say p, f, s, sh, ch. These sounds are voiceless and you won't feel any vibrations on your fingers because your vocal cords are not activated. Okay, now let's look at some verbs. For example, the verb work ends with the phoneme k, which is a voiceless consonant. On the other hand, the verb close ends with a voiced consonant z. Again, make sure to always refer to the sound that we pronounce and not the letter that we spell. Although verbs like close, manage, etc. are spelled with an e at the end, the e is not pronounced. So if the verb in its present tense ends with a voiceless consonant that is other than t, we pronounce the past tense suffix ed as t. For example, the word work becomes worked. Make sure not to add a vowel between the k and the t. It's not worked, but worked. Here are some other examples. Dance becomes danced. Think becomes thinked. Fix becomes fixed. Laugh becomes laughed, etc. You get the point. But if the verb ends with a voiced consonant that is other than d, we pronounce the final ed as d. For example, close becomes closed. Again, make sure not to add a vowel between the z and the d. It's not closed, but closed. Other examples are manage, which becomes managed, change, which becomes changed, improve, which becomes improved, assume, which becomes assumed, etc. Okay, let's sum it up. Here are the questions again. Does the present tense of the verb end with either t or d? If the answer is yes, then the suffix ed in the past tense is pronounced as ud. If the answer is no, then we ask the next question. Is the final phoneme of the present tense of the verb voiceless or voiced? If it's voiceless, then the suffix ed is pronounced as the voiceless consonant t. But if it's voiced, then the suffix ed is pronounced as the voiced consonant d. Okay, now I have a quiz for you. I'll give you some verbs in the present tense and you have to decide how to pronounce them in their past tense. Will you add ud, t, or d in the end? Take a piece of paper and write down the past tense of the verbs I give you, but make sure to note down how you pronounce it and not just how you spell it. Ready? Here we go. Count, decode, explain, expect, assume, play, save, guess, watch. How do you think you did? Was it easy or did you have to think a little? I'll put the answers in the first comment. By the way, I have more examples for you on my website. I'll leave the link in the description box below. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful and what is the most difficult for you when it comes to learning English. Is it vocabulary, grammar, or pronunciation? Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done it. I'll see you in the next video.